I've been walking various dogs at Blickling for years now, and I obviously noticed the pyramid quite quickly, because you can't miss it, can you? And I wondered, why was there a pyramid in the middle of Norfolk? Later on I became a volunteer at the mausoleum, for that's what it is, and became very curious to know why the second Earl was in there flanked by two wives. There must be a story, I thought, and there was. The Blickling we see today owes a lot to John Hobart, the second Earl, because it was down to him to protect and maintain the Jacobean structure of the hall. John Hobart, the future second Earl of Buckinghamshire, was born at Blickling in 1723. He spent most of his upbringing at Marble Hill House under the loving care of his Aunt Henrietta, Lady Suffolk. She was a former mistress of George II for 20 very long and very boring years. She built Marble Hill House, which is a beautiful Palladian villa at Twittenham, now Twickenham, on the banks of the River Thames. John grew up there surrounded by the literati of the time, artists, singers, writers, painters, novelists. John Hobart went to Westminster School, after which he went to Christ College, Cambridge. He then went on his grand tour to Italy. He spent a lot of time in Venice, in Rome and in Florence. When he was in Rome he saw the tomb of Cestius and he bought a print of it, and that is significant later on. In Venice he had an opera dedicated to him. After 2 years in Italy, John was called back by his father because in his absence he had been elected MP for Norwich. When in London, John joined 2 clubs. One was the Society of Dilettanti, which was ostensibly set up for young men who had been on their grand tour. But Horace Walpole rather scathingly said that that was the nominal qualification. The real one was being drunk. The other club that he joined was the Catch Club, a singing club. There, if you sang out of tune or sang the words wrong, you would be fined, and the fine was to take a glass of whatever was on the table, and it was always alcohol. In 1756, the first Earl of Buckinghamshire died, which meant that the young John was now the second Earl of Buckinghamshire. The second Earl became a Lord of the Bedchamber at the court of the King and was made a Privy Councillor. He was going up in the world big time. Soon after inheriting his title, he got around to thinking about getting married. He was now 37. He married a young lady of 21, Mary Ann Drury. Mary Ann came with a dowry of £50,000. After the birth of their first daughter, Henrietta, the Earl was appointed ambassador to the court of Peter III of Russia. However, while Hobart was on the way to Russia, Peter III was accidentally strangled. And so he ended up arriving at the court of the future Empress Catherine the Great. The social life in St. Petersburg was quite extraordinary. The Empress would throw balls and banquets and operas. At one ball, the Earl says there were at least 2,000 people, and an opera followed by a firework display. He said, however, that because it was light 24 hours a day, it greatly took off the effect of the fireworks. The court was known for its gaiety and dissipation, and so he fitted in very well. The second Earl had been sent to Russia to try and fulfil 2 missions. One was a treaty of commerce, and one was a treaty of alliance. Either of those would have been splendid. But was the Russian envoy in London plotting against him? Would his mission be scuppered? After a couple of years in Russia, Hobart returned to his wife, Mary Ann, and to life at Blickling. In 1766 in Norwich, food riots broke up and a huge mob assembled. People were really angry and very, very hungry, and the mayor sent for the second Earl to come and try and quell the mob, which he bravely did. In 1769, after the birth of their 4th daughter Julia, Mary Ann sadly died at the age of only 29. The following summer, Hobart looked about him for another wife. He had 4 daughters and no son. His eye fell upon a very young girl. She was either 15 or 16, and her name was Caroline Connolly, one of 8 children of the richest man in Ireland. She brought, even though she was the 7th or 8th child, a dowry of £20,000. Several years later, the Earl was appointed Viceroy of Ireland, and the family moved to Dublin. After a difficult few years in Ireland, the second Earl and Caroline returned to Blickling, where he enjoyed a bucolic retirement. Unfortunately, Harriet, the eldest daughter, had married in Ireland, and that marriage did not work out well. She separated from her husband and her baby and was exiled to Paris. Later, Harriet fell in love with William Ancram, the eldest son of the Marquis of Lothian, but because she was married, that caused difficulties and an immense scandal. The second Earl lived for 70 years and 10, and he died quite suddenly in 1793. He lies within the pyramid that was commissioned by his widow Caroline and his second daughter, Caroline. But who would inherit his estate after his death? Would it be George, his half-brother, the third Earl of Buckinghamshire? Would it be his widow, Caroline? Would it be Harriet, his eldest daughter, or Caroline, his second daughter? To find out, read An Angel Amongst Strange Bears.